I'm going to live even though they got me surrounded. I'm going to live even though I just got laid off. I'm going to live even though I'm going through this, that, and the other. I'm going to live even though they're saying it'll never happen. I'm going to live because that's what God has ordained for me to do. You have to know what God has ordained even when your enemies have surrounded you. Tell your neighbor, it's easy to talk right when everything going right. Tell your neighbor, you got to have the ability to talk right when everything that can go wrong seems like it's going wrong. Tell your neighbor, that's when it's important to talk right, think right, and do right. Yes, it is. When you are told no, that's when it's important to keep in your mind, God said yes. God said yes. And when you talk like you know he said yes. Even though man just told you no. But you got a yes in your mind. You got a yes in your mouth. And when it comes to what you doing, you're making sure that your action or your choices are saying, yes, it is time. Verse 12. He said, they surrounded me like bees. Tell you, you know what bees do. And when they surround you, from a literal standpoint, they deadly. One may not do no harm, but get surrounded. I don't care if you're allergic or not. Enough bees is deadly. Teach this thing, Pastor. Sometimes trouble surrounds you and says to you that it's going to take you out. He said, they surrounded me like bees. So death is looking inevitable. It's going to happen. Nothing can be done about it. I'm surrounded by bees. But he has the audacity, while being surrounded, to utter out of his mouth, I shall not die, but I'm going to live. I'm going to live even though they got me surrounded. I'm going to live even though I just got laid off. I'm going to live even though I'm going through this, that, and the other. I'm going to live even though they're saying it'll never happen. I'm going to live because that's what God has ordained for me to do. You have to know what God has ordained even when your enemies have surrounded you. Even when it looks as rough as it's done looked in a long time, you got to know the will of God, and you got to be able to speak what thus saith God. He had to no doubt defeat the spirit of fear to get to the point to where he could utter out of his mouth, I'm not going to die, but I'm going to live. I'm going to live. Recognizing, like we need to recognize tonight, that it's not time to die. It ain't time to be in ruin. It ain't time to lose nothing. It's time to increase and improve. I am teaching hard and preaching hard. Listen, that's what it's time to do. But tell your neighbor, if we're going to do that, especially when trouble's surrounding us, we have to kick the spirit of fear to the curb and believe God anyhow. See, some of you about to go from being broke to never being broke again, but the spirit of fear, it's got to go. It's got to go. I'm preaching to somebody. You've been trying to do something. You've been being met with opposition, but it's about to happen for you. That's a word from God that something supernaturally is going to happen that's going to tilt everything in your favor. It's going to tilt it in your favor. If you'll get in your spirit that it's time for you to live. Listen, I'm teaching the people tonight that it's time for some of us to have things. And don't you get scared when I say that. It's time for you to have things. I'm preaching to people tonight that have been going for a long time without. God showing up tonight to serve notice on you that your days of just struggling, just barely making it, living paycheck to paycheck, He wants all that to end. He wants all that to be a thing of the past. But if that's going to happen, the spirit of fear got to go. Because remember, even if God want to make you $1 million out of night, if you don't get rid of the spirit of fear, it will convince you to think wrong, talk wrong, and do wrong. And you will miss what God wanted to do. And listen, God told me many of them are going through some tough stuff. That's the reason I'm taking you back to Psalm 118 so that they'll understand that I know, listen, what has them surrounded. I know. See, some of us, God trying to give you a breakout moment, but debt got you surrounded. And debt is telling you can't go to the right, and debt telling you don't turn to the left because we have you surrounded. But God is saying, get in your spirit that it's time for you to live. Go to 1 Kings 17. I'm going to close right there. Because see, the spirit of fear got to go. I say it's got to go. Because the spirit of fear shows up to ruin seasons. And even as I'm preaching right now, and I'm teaching line upon line, the spirit of fear is talking to folk in this church right now. Already trying to convince you that it ain't no need in you thinking that he talking to you. And if you give in, you sitting right up in the sanctuary thinking wrong. Thinking wrong. Because when I talk like that, some of us get ideas as to why that can't be for us. Yeah, they told me don't come back unless such and such, such and such, and I don't have such and such, such and such. So how am I going to just go back without such and such, such and such? See, the thing to know is whether or not God is telling you to go with such and such. Because if God is saying, don't worry about such and such, then go ahead and go, knowing that you don't have such and such, such and such. Look at 1 King. I'm going to show it to you, then I'm going to close. Elijah shows up to a widow woman who's been commanded to provide for him. And when Elijah shows up on the scene, he asked the woman to do basically what God had told her to do. Now, let's pick it up in verse 12. So she said, now because he didn't ask her for water, she said, okay, I'll get it. Then he said, bring me a morsel of bread. Now remember, she'd been commanded to provide for him, to take care of him. If you look back at verse 8, 9, and 10. So in verse 12, when he speaks, give me a piece of bread, she says to him, as the Lord your God lives, 1 Kings 17, I do not have bread, only a handful of flour in a bin, a little oil in a jar. So she got a handful of flour, and she got a little oil in a jar. And she says to him, see, or understand, I'm gathering a couple of sticks that I may go in. Now tell your neighbor, if she wasn't an experienced cook or an experienced provider, she may have said that out of ignorance. Because some of us don't know how many folk a cake will feed. Right? Because we never had to make one and we never had to serve one. You don't know how much a cake will feed. How many people a cake will feed, right? But there are some folk will tell you down to the T, depending on who eating, how many a whole cake will feed. They'll tell you immediately you can get such and such slices out. So understand, she's not an ignorant woman, but she's looking at things from a natural standpoint. She's saying, based upon the flour and the oil, we can go one meal, and that's it. And with her natural eyes, there is nothing that she sees that can help death from coming in and consuming them. Watch Elijah. It's in line with what I'm teaching. And Elijah said to her, do not what? Do not what? Do not what? So what she spoke because the spirit of fear was controlling her. Even though God ordained for her to provide for him, it was the spirit of fear that suggested to her, if you do it, you have nothing. Hear me. When he saw her, he recognized her. When he came up, he recognized that's the widow that's supposed to sustain me. When he told her, go get me some water, she did not say, who are you? She recognized this is the prophet I am to provide. They on the same page. But when he asked her for something that she felt like she couldn't do, the spirit of fear told her, there's no way you can do that. She only has a little. But Elijah says, watch this. For thus says the Lord, I got a rhema word for you, woman. You got to get rid of fear first in order to receive this word. See, that's what some of us got to do. You can't even receive what I'm saying tonight unless you get rid of the spirit of fear. He said, thus says the Lord God of Israel, the bin of flour shall not be used up, nor shall the jar of oil run dry until the day the Lord sends rain on the earth. So she went away and did according to the word of the Lord. And she and he and her house ate for how many days? For how many days? The bin of flour was not what? Nor did the jar of oil run what? Tell your neighbor, it never overflowed. It just consistently continued to sustain her. The flour didn't run over and over. It was always just enough to do what needed to be done. I'm coming to tell you, God been having some of us there. He have been doing enough to make sure we never went under. But now he's saying, the same way I kept you from going under, I want to take you over.